Instead of doing an apple crisp, I thought we'd jazz it up and do something a little more fancy. We're going to do an apple pear crisp. Just as easy. You can actually make the whole thing ahead of time if you're having company over, and then bake it right before you're ready for dessert. But I do think that that's the best part of it, is bringing this warm out of the oven with a little bit of vanilla ice cream on top. Now, I happen to love crisps, and one of the reasons I love them so much is because you don't have to fuss with doing a pie crust. And my favorite type of pie is the pie that has that crumbly, wonderful, crunchy topping on top, like, you know, what do they call that? The French apple pie? Dutch apple pie? Yeah, there's a couple different names for it, but if it's got the crumblies on it, I'm all about it. So this has got lots of crumblies for this crisp. So we started out, and Ann went ahead and helped me out today. How are you today, Ann? Anything to say? Anything going on? Oh, goodness. This is the hand. Very funny. Everyone says, we never see Ann. Well, she says hello. So we see her every once in a while, but she's kind of shy about that. Couldn't do the show without her, though. So anyway, she went ahead and diced up for me 6 apples, or 5 apples and 5 pears. So I'll go ahead and do one more of each. So basically, you want about 6 apples and 6 pears. And I like to use different varieties. People always say, well, what's your favorite variety when it comes to, you know, making a pie or crisps? And I've asked around to the people who really know their stuff when it comes to apples, and those are the people that run the apple orchards. And they say the best thing to do is mix up, use different varieties so that you've got some that are a little more firm, some that are a little more crisp when it comes to baking them, and different flavors. So that's my best advice. Normally what I do is I see what kind of apples are left in that bottom drawer of the refrigerator that need using up, and I just use what I have. With all the other ingredients in here, it's going to be fantastic. You can't go wrong. So just going to dice up my apple. Slice it up, dice it up, however you want to do it. Crisps are just making a huge comeback at like some of the fancier restaurants, you know, in New York and the big cities. You see crisps on the menu, different types, combining different fruits and kind of taking them to the next level. And the fun part is what they're doing is they're putting these crisps in individual little casserole dishes or ramekins so that everybody gets their own. And you could certainly do that with this recipe. Those little casserole individual dishes are available just about anywhere. They're very inexpensive now. So that's a fun thing to do if you're doing a dinner party and you really want to make everybody feel special. Everybody gets their own, and that's fun. As far as the pears go, I don't like to use pears that are real overripe because remember they're going to continue to bake, so just kind of give them a feel. And there's so many different varieties of pears. And you really don't even have to peel them, the pears. The apple skin's a little bit firmer, but or you could peel some of the pears and not all of them. It's up to you. Notice, though, that we're trying to make the pieces kind of uniform. All right, so there we go. Big bowl of apples and pears. Now we've got some cinnamon. Got some flour. And people say, well, why do you use the flour? Well, what the flour does is when you bake the apples and the pears, they release juices. And the flour is going to kind of tighten those juices a little bit, almost like a gravy. So it's not all like a liquid. It'll kind of coat the spoon, and it makes it yummy. So don't leave that out. I'm using a combination of brown sugar and white sugar. And then a little bit of fresh lemon juice. That's going to keep the apples from browning, and just add a little bit of acid, which is flavor. So fresh lemon juice in here. A little bit more. All right, there we go. Now I'm just going to toss this together. I've got a nice big casserole dish, a 9 by 13. This recipe makes a big batch for a crowd, or like I say, probably a good 8 to 10 ramekins if you're having a dinner party, maybe even 12, just depends on the size of your dish. I just want to mix together all the apples and the pears with the rest of the ingredients, and then I get them into the casserole dish. And I know it looks like a ton of fruit, but it's going to cook down as fruit does. Thank you, Anne. So anywhere, we used about 6 apples, 6 pears, so it depends on the size of your fruit. So anywhere between 6 to 8 apples and 6 to 8 pears. So 6 to 8 of each. Okay, now the fun part. We're going to do the crunchy, crumbly, crisp part. And I love to use, you know, there are different crisp recipes. I actually love to use some oats, some uncooked old-fashioned oatmeal in here. What I like about that is just it makes it very, very rustic, and I just like it in here. And flour, so a combination of oats and flour, brown sugar, a little bit of vanilla, a little more cinnamon, and then we've got some cold butter. Thank you, Anne. That I'm just going to use a pastry blender or 2 forks to get it combined with the oats and the flour and make it real nice and crumbly, like a crumb topping. And you notice there's going to be plenty of this crumb topping, and that's because I came up with the recipe. I usually double or triple the crumb topping. And I just usually use my fingers to get the butter out of there. You'll have to do this a couple times to. Oven temperature for this is about 350. Everybody's oven's different. At this point, this whole thing, and what I would do is I'd refrigerate the fruit and then, you know, keep this refrigerated in a separate container, and then just sprinkle the topping on right before baking. But you could certainly get this done the morning of your party for sure. I wouldn't go too much more than that because of the fruit. I don't want it turning brown or getting too soft on you. But this is certainly a make-ahead, and I cannot stress this enough. It's fabulous no matter what, but it's way more fabulous if you bring it warm out of the oven. It just is. You just get that whole wow factor. It's like apple pie is great, but warm apple pie out of the oven with a dollop of vanilla bean ice cream, I mean, come on. Certainly if you go to one of these fancy restaurants and you're going to see a crisp on the menu, they're not going to bring it out to you cold. Or I should hope not. Because like I say, that's the thing that makes it extra special and comfy and cozy. Okay. So this now goes over the top. Kind of use your hands to spread it apart a little bit so that we coat everything. Thank you, Anne. Bob and Ireland are my crisp apple pie people. They love it. And nothing smells better, too. That's the added bonus when you're having a dinner party or something. You don't need to light a bunch of vanilla and apple candles because the oven's doing it for you. So that's that little added bonus. What do they say if you're selling a house? Bake an apple pie, even if you just pick up a frozen apple pie and throw it in your oven. Yeah, there's nothing that smells better than that. Okay, so come back with me. Oh, this looks really great. Wow. And in fact, we may even throw it in the oven a little longer just to continue toasting it, but you can see it's all bubbly, and I just want the top to get a little more golden. So we'll throw it back in there, and it is going to be fantastic. I can hardly wait to have a bite. My apple and pear crisp recipe's on the website. You can also pick it up at any area Festival Foods.